But Mark Houck is going to tell us a little bit about what's happened to him and where he's going, and we're excited he could be here because tonight he'll be here at dinner, and then he has to leave at the crack of dawn because he has a family event. All this family stuff, Mark, back in Pennsylvania. So Mark Houck. Mark, please.
Well, greetings, everyone. It's great to be with you. Yeah, it just worked out that we were driving through, and it was going to be a video recording that we were going to do, but I said, hey, we're going to be coming through. I had a retreat out in Idaho, and I just bought a Dunkin' Donuts because there's no Dunkin' Donuts out in anything past Chicago. We couldn't get a Dunkin' Donuts, so we live on Dunkin' Donuts. My kids live on Dunkin' Donuts, and I just got off the phone with Stan Casasio, and he's doing okay. But yeah, we were out there for a retreat for men. We had about 60 guys in Cascade, Idaho, beautiful area of our country, and yeah, we're making our way back. The kids have been on the road for 2 weeks. Praise God, they've been really good, but they're anxious to get home, and so blessed to be with you. So I'm going to tell you the truncated version of what happened and why we're in the kind of position we're in now to run for Congress. But let me take you back to October 13th. I'm going to give you the highlights. Tell them I'll be with them in just a minute. I'm going to give you the highlights. October 13th, 2021. Some of you may have known about this. Some of you may not have known about this. Some of the details are a little fuzzy because you only get a little bit. You know, we were on Fox News and Hannity right after the acquittal, and you get a little bit. You don't get the fullness of the story. So let me give you the highlights, and then we'll get into what actually happened, and you're going to be appalled by it. And these people can witness to everything I'm sharing with you. But on October 13th, 2021, I was at my post with Mark Jr., who's the middle boy over here. He was 12 years old. We were in Philadelphia, Planned Parenthood, and we were doing what we've been doing for 20 years, which was going to pray and help women and men and in crisis, right, in a tough spot, in a difficult situation. And we've been doing that for 20 years as my ministry's been going down there. And every week we go there. And so Mark, once he turned 12, I decided it was important for him to start being ushered into manhood and a bit of rite of passage. And so he had been down there with me about 40 times before we had an incident with an escort who works with as a volunteer for Planned Parenthood. Now, I've known this man for 20 years. On this particular day, he was harassing my son, bullying my son in some ways with his posture and his positioning, and would not cease and desist. It's ultimately to the point where I had to become dad, and I said, you got to stop. Had nothing to do with anything with abortion. It was just a man harassing a young boy. And then ultimately in Philadelphia, it ended up in an altercation where it was a shoving match on the sideline of a football field. No, I'm sorry, a sideline of 12th and Locust. Because in Philadelphia, when the Eagles play every Sunday, there's a shoving match of some sort in the stadium, and it's not a big deal, okay? Well, I was put in a private criminal complaint for that, and it was dismissed at the state level. Guy didn't even bother to show up for court. So this brings us to April 22nd, the day of the dismissal, 2022. This is pre-Dobbs, and it's dismissed. My son and I would get up early, go down the city, a 2-hour drive to the city for us. Get up, put his shirt and tie on, guy doesn't show up for court. For 5 different court appearances, all dismissed. I'm at the abortion mill with my son the following Wednesday, 27th of April. A man in a suit walks up to me and asks me if I'm Mark Houck. Serves me a target letter, a target saying that target letter says that you're a target of a federal grand jury investigation. Have your attorney contact us right away. Assistant U.S. Attorney, Department of Justice. Okay, that's the letter. So Dobbs has not leaked yet, and I said, okay, well, all right, we got Thomas More Society already representing us. Matt Heffron in Omaha, Nebraska, gets on the phone with the assistant U.S. attorney and says, you have no case. My client's innocent. However, should you want to indict him, no need to bring an agent out to his house. He's a peaceful man. We'll bring him right to you. So just let us know. But you have no case. There's case law in your own district against indicting him, and he cited the case law. Okay? This is April 27th, pre-Dobbs. You with me? So, of course, Dobbs leaks early May. And then June comes, and then Dobbs happens. And then, of course, we see these arrests of these pro-lifers in July and August, Mar-a-Lago. And then I get a call from my attorney. So nothing happens with this indictment. It goes nowhere. So my wife and I are going about our business. We're a homeschool family. That's why we can get on the road and do these things. They're taking classes on Zoom, on the car ride and all this stuff. So nothing happens, and school year begins, and I get a call from Matt, and he says, have you heard from the assistant U.S. attorney? This is August 2022, a year ago. And I said, no, why would I have heard from her? And he said, well, she won't return my phone calls. I said, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll just let sleeping dogs lie. He's like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. So, Joan Andrews Bell gets arrested and all these people. I said, but nothing's happening with us because there's no case. I wasn't breaking the FACE Act. That was what they were potentially indicting me. Freedom of access to clinic entrances. There was nothing like that. It was just protecting my boy from overzealous volunteer for Planned Parenthood. So it goes into September. I want to take you to September 23rd. It's 6:30 in the morning, and I'm up early because these youngsters got co-op that day, and we get to leave the home that day. Have anyone here ever homeschooled anybody? Okay, so you know that a co-op day is a really fun day because we get to leave the home. We get to leave the school. It's a field trip. So we're excited, and of course I'm excited. I'm teaching a class, and I'm up early, and I got a quiche in the oven at 6:30 to feed my children because real men, Ed, eat quiche, right? We eat quiche, right? That's right, he likes quiche over there. So I got a quiche in the oven. It's dark o'clock. It's dark outside 6:30 in rural Pennsylvania, and all of a sudden, now this is exactly how it went down, okay? Heavy banging at my door. My kids are all asleep. Doorbell rings repeatedly throughout the home, but a heavy banging. Open up! It's exactly what they said. I'm like, who is this, right? Who? First of all, if it was a police force of some sort, they would be like, please open the door, it's the police, we need to speak to you, you know what I mean? This is how they approach the door. So I happened to be downstairs, of course, and I went right to the door, and I say, well, who is it? And they said, that's the sound of communism and tyranny coming to your door, okay? That's the sound of it. That's exactly what that is. In fact, Cardinal Gerhard Mueller came to my house 2 weeks after the arrest and said, when children are woken up in their sleep and fathers are arrested in the middle of the night, that's when you know dictatorships and tyranny are coming to that country. So I said, who is it? And they banged again and rang the doorbell again. And they said, open up, it's the FBI. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Okay. Stay calm, I said to them. I have 7 babies in here. Please stay calm. Now, I can't see anything. My door's solid. I have a little window so I can see some sirens, but they're not ringing. They're just lit up. So I don't know I'm thinking a deer was hit. I live in a forest. I live in 2,000 acres of state game lands. I don't know what's going on. I open the door, and I kid you not, there's 5 agents on my porch with M16 guns pointed at me. And then I see 10, what I think are 10, maybe more, unmarked and marked units on my property, surrounding my home, hugging my home with their vehicles. My little daughter, Therese, where is she? Did she leave? Oh, she had to go to the bathroom. You can ask her. She sees 2 SWAT people at the back door because she snuck through Big Brother Mark and got downstairs. And she's an extremely nervous gal. And that would really disturb her. And M16 guns back there. But anyhow, I come out and it was like fear banged on the door. Faith answered, and they really had no answer. They didn't really know what to say. They should have led with the warrant. We have a warrant for your arrest. Put it at the end of the M16 gun. Put it on the door. Nothing like that. There was no warrant. I come out, and they didn't say anything. I said, what are you doing here? And then there's, again, state troopers, 10 marked and unmarked units, with pistols drawn behind their doors all at me. 2 battering rams, ballistic helmets, ballistic shields, full body armor. I'm like, what are you doing here? You know why we're here. I said, oh, you're here because I rescue babies. I had no clue that it was related to the target letter at all. I said, you're here because I rescue babies. You see, I think my home is enthroned to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. I believe when the door opened that the peace of Christ came out upon them. And they were in shock because they expect to break open the door, come in, secure the building, and take the person who's the suspect or the warrant being issued against and take that person down. That's exactly what they're trained to do. But I came out to them, and they really didn't know what to do with that. So now my wife is stirring. I call her the lioness, and she's coming down, and she's got her leopard bathrobe on. She's right over there, and she's tightening the belt. Okay, the children are awoken at this point. They're on the steps, and they're screaming. So she comes down. Actually, before she gets to the doors, I said, you know, you guys wouldn't be here if the Trump administration was in the White House. I told them that, and they didn't say anything to that either. So nothing is going on between me and them. They're just looking at me, and I'm looking at them. She comes down. She says, who are you here for? And I look at her. And she takes charge of the whole situation. She comes down, and she says, who are you here for? And he said, for him. And she said, what's his name? He has a name, Mark Houck. Do you have a warrant for his arrest? That's what she says. And they said, well, we're taking him with or without a warrant. See, this is your government, right? This is why organizations like Phyllis Schlafly and what we're doing here at the Eagles event this weekend is so important. Because in our country right now, the process is the punishment. They don't care about the conviction. They want to punish people of faith, pro-life people, people with traditional family values, American values. They want to punish you. And they want to scare these little people. And they did. They terrorized. To this day, they're still terrorized by it. When I talk about it, sometimes they'll even cry. So I recognize as a dad, like at the abortion mill, that I needed to protect my family. So they're going to take me whether with or without a warrant. This is going to happen one way or another. Now, my wife says you can't do that because that's kidnapping at gunpoint, which, of course, logically that makes sense, but they didn't care about that. So I said, look, can I get some clothes on? I had T-shirts, shorts, flip-flops. No. Can I brush my teeth? No. Can I put some deodorant on? No. And, hey, it's kind of cold out. Can I get a sweatshirt? No. Can I take my rosary? Yes. They let me take my rosary. I'm like, all right, good. So I was put in an SUV, and my wife they distracted her enough to get me arrested, and they didn't even let me say goodbye to my children. I don't even know when I'm coming back, because the January 6 people, some of them are still in prison. So I don't know when I'm coming back, but you know what? I had a lot of peace about it. So I'm going to take you quickly through what happened at the federal building, which was 100 yards from Independence Hall, where they took me. Now, I had a 2-hour drive on the whole way down. I'm giving these guys directions, and they're saying, you have a really beautiful home where you live, and it's really nice up here. Oh, you homeschool your kids? Tell me about that. What's that like? I'm having this conversation. It's all recorded in the car with the driver, who's from St. Louis. The driver, Andrew, Agent Andrew. And the other guy, the agent, the lead agent, he's from Delaware. Why would you bring an agent out from St. Louis to arrest a man in Pennsylvania? Think about that. Why is that? Maybe no attachments to the community? Maybe if something bad happens? I don't know. I haven't really pondered that one, but you can ponder that one. So we're going down. I said, don't go that way. That's not the right way to go. I'm giving them directions, and we get down to the building. And we get in the building. Of course, I got a mugshot like President Trump, and they fingerprint me. And then they do something really bizarre. Well, Andrew comes up to me, and he says, hey, it was a real pleasure meeting you. I'm like, great, let's do it the same time next Saturday, right? Like, really? Who says that to someone who's a felon, right? Allegedly. But that's what he said. Yeah, we were sharing the love of Jesus Christ the whole way down, and that's what I do. So they decide to bring me to a room. Now, they belly shackle me, and they shackle my bare ankles. I'm thinking, I'm already in custody. Well, why does this have to happen? Okay. And they bring me to a white room that's about 8 by 10 and a little ring on the table, and they chain me to the table for 6 hours. Now, I have perfect peace. I'm at the foot of the cross. I'm at Calvary. I'm at the foot of the cross. I could pluck a splinter off the cross. So, of course, I have to understand everything that happens to me in my life through the lens of the life of Christ, and so that's what I'm doing. And so I got perfect peace. I don't know what's going on with them. I have to turn them over to the Lord and say, you'll have to take care of them now. But I had peace. I had joy in my heart. I had love in my heart. I had forgiveness in my heart. And I knew that I was being punished unjustly, but for a righteous cause. So I was prepared to do that. Now, I've been saying yes to martyrdom through my ministry for the last 20 years. When I say martyrdom, white martyrdom, dying to myself and, worldliness. So when martyrdom banged on my door, I was able to say yes to that. And I did say yes to that. So they would check on me for every so often, say, do you need anything? No, I'm fine. So again, my will and God's will were perfectly one. It's the only time ever in my life this has ever happened. My will and God's will I was perfectly united to the will of God. I knew that without a shadow of a doubt. And I had perfect peace with that. And I'm thinking about all the history of the church. I'm thinking of Bishop Joe Strickland, who says we need to be first century Christians in the 21st century, being willing to die for the faith. And so I'm being inspired by all that. But I don't know when I'm getting released. Well, they're going to release me on my own recognizance. What does that tell you? I'm not a threat to the community. I'm not a violent offender. All right? I'm not a threat to the community. I'm not a violent offender. I'm not even a flight risk. So why the armory? Why the heavy armor? Why, if but to punish those who speak out against the state? Right? And I'm not speaking out against the state. I'm just living my life. I'm just fighting abortion. I'm just helping men become better husbands and fathers. But we're active, and we've been active, and we're effective at what we do. We help a lot of women and men. We've held these babies, haven't we? We've held them in the homes, in our homes. But anyhow, so they're going to release me. Now, after about 6 hours, I'm released. Now, they keep me in chains. Now, I'm already going home. So why are they keeping me in chains? I got to walk 6 flights of stairs down to U.S. Marshals, which was the worst experience of the whole thing. Totally dehumanized me, treated me like an animal. But nonetheless, I'm not going to get into that. They kept me in chains. And I said, is this really necessary? And again, the process is the punishment. And so I look at the guy, the agent, I said, do you have a cross for me to carry, a heavy cross to carry? He says, I don't have a heavy cross for you. I said, well, it's coming. So then in about 5 days, I'm arraigned. And now I look at this as the stations of the cross, that I'm going to travel the way of the cross. And very quickly, I'm going to take you through that, and I'll take you right up to trial and to tell you why we're going to the swamp and attempting to do something good for this republic. So I knew that the Lord would take me through the way of the cross. The crucifixion date was January 24th, 2023, and that I was going to travel this way with my family. And it was the only way I was going to make sense of it. And of course, arraignment, that's right before Pilate, so we're going before our judge. And of course, we declare our innocence, and then we begin that process. I don't have time to get in to tell you, but suffice it to say, the details that is, that we went through every specific way of the cross, and it was dark. It was dark. It was full of joy. The whole world was reaching out to us. I mean, all of the country, Australia. We had a village in Uganda that was like, we pray for Mark Houck. Each villager was holding an individual letter. We pray for Mark Houck. I had Mother Teresa's nuns in Calcutta putting our picture of our family on her sarcophagus and praying over it every day for my family. Who am I, right? I had a guy reach out to me. He said, I'm a lousy Catholic, but seeing what's happening to you is bringing me back to church. And I thought, we're done here. Just do it for that guy, right? It's all worth it. Save a soul, save your own soul. So I'm like, man, I can't ask for more generosity from the Lord here. And so the whole world's reaching out, and then just the notes of encouragement, and you just don't realize what your witness means to the world. You don't realize how much of an impact you have. And every day we're just waking up and doing what God's asking of us, like each and every one of you in this room. Just faithfully staying the course, like Phyllis did. Staying the course. And just waking up and trying to be light in the darkness. That's all we are. That's all we stand for as a family. And so we did that faithfully. And we're praying every night faithfully. And so we take up that cross. Of course, that's all we can do. We embrace that cross because that's our gift. We saw this as a gift from God, not necessarily a punishment, but a gift, an invitation to become more like Him. And of course, I'm being gagged. I'm being told that I can't coach my kid's football game because I have an assault charge on me. So how about that? They start to remove stuff from you. You realize that they have so much power over us. You don't realize that till they take it from you. You can't coach your kids. Oh, you can't travel either. You got to get permission to leave the district. You're like, my gosh, I'm not even guilty, and yet I'm on house arrest, essentially. But you embrace it. You're a lamb to the slaughter. You embrace it. Because if you fight it, that's what they want. They want you to fight it. They want to make you out to be this, villainous guy, this radical, right-wing nut. Pro-lifers, right? This is what they are. I'm not, man. It's peace. Peace. We're just being peaceful people, and we're trying to love on our children, help them process what happened to them. I mean, guns pointed out, they were downrange, my kids, and so was my wife. The guns entered the home, and they were all downrange. You can imagine how reckless this is? If there was any false move, they would have been shot. I'm surprised I wasn't shot. I really am surprised, because I think that's what they were expecting. So, again, we traveled that way and that journey, and we made it to December. Now, I said to my attorney, who is a chairman of my board for my nonprofit, he's a former federal prosecutor from Chicago, I said, is the government going to come in with a plea agreement? Because we knew a big red wave was going to happen in November, and the government was going to back off and say, there's no case here, but that didn't happen. They said, no, Mark, that plea's got to come from you. I said, well, I'm not asking for a plea. He said, well, you're not going to get one. He said, Mark, you got to know, the government has a 98% conviction rate when they come after you. You got to know this. I said, all right, well, so I start looking up what life in federal prison is going to be like. I'm literally doing that. I'm like, I got to prepare my heart, right? And it wasn't good. It wasn't pretty, because I got an assault charge. So they're not going to put me in low security. They're going to put you in high security because you're an assault, felon. So anyhow, I'm like, all right, Lord, your will be done. So, we're seeing these things, and this is how happening, and I'm having my own little darkness with it. But nonetheless, I'm at peace, and so is my family for the most part. And my wife's doing a great job. She's on Tucker Carlson within days of the arrest. She's the last person that wants to be on Tucker Carlson. But there she is, and she's representing the family, and it's not her comfort level to do that, but she did it. And the whole world was seeing this as wrong. It was bipartisan. There were Democrats and even atheists were like, hey, this is wrong. What happened to you? I don't agree with your politics, but this is wrong. They shouldn't be doing this to you. Atheists were like, hey, I don't agree with this. So it was uniting a lot of people, galvanizing a lot of the people in the country. And we were blessed to be able to be a part of that. So we were just marching to the trial. It's end of December, and we're going to enter the Passion of Jesus. And I said to my wife, we got to go into some deep, deep prayer. So the night before the trial, on January 23rd, we spent all night in adoration. If you're not familiar with that, that's a Catholic devotion where we have the Eucharist, which we believe is the body and blood of Jesus Christ. And we adore that monstrance, it holds the body of Jesus, and we pray before it. And we stayed in that posture all night. All night. And my attorneys were like, don't do this. We need you sharp for the trial. You can't be tired. I said, no, I got to do this. Don't worry, I'll pray for you too. I said, but I'm entering into battle, man. If you're going to go into battle, you better go armed, right? Well, I'm going armed with everything that I need, and my family and my wife. We need to do this. So we entered into that. Of course, they couldn't talk us out of it. And then we went down to Federal Building again, first thing in the morning after we emerged from that chapel. And it was jury day, jury selection day. And almost every jury member was a supporter of Planned Parenthood. So I'm like, I'm going to get a fair trial in Philadelphia. This is not going to go well. So I got 12 jury of my peers, and I'm thinking this isn't going to be good. So, of course, the government has the full, resources available to them. The Judge Papert, says, I've never had a judge come up from Washington, D.C. in 9 years for a federal case here in Philadelphia. But we got all the attorneys from D.C. up here. Isn't this great? So this is the first one. Again, they're coming after me first. They get my trial up really fast. So this is the big moment. United States versus Houck. This is a big case. This is case law. This is going to establish precedent. So we didn't realize how big this was, but even Thomas More said this is the trial of the century. It's an early century, but it's what they said for the pro-life movement. So we just prepared ourselves for that. And of course, there's something you need to know prior to that trial. And I usually save this to the end, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to share it with you now. The government did come in with a plea. They came in with a plea on January 6th of all dates. On January 6th of all dates, they came in with a plea. And you know what they said? I was facing 11 years in prison, $350,000 in fines, 3 years supervised probation. No time, no fine, no probation. Sweetheart deal. Sweetheart deal. Yeah, just say guilty to the assault charge. You see, the government, in truth, could only put me away for 1 year because I was be a first-time felon. But you know, that's a little misleading, because once they get you convicted on that one, they're going to come after you again. And the second time they come after you, they're going to put you away for 10 years, because that's when they can put you away. So I would be foolish to take that, although I was getting no counsel on that. But I said, you know, I'm not taking that to my attorney. Comes in on a Friday afternoon at 5:30 just to bury that offer late, and my attorneys are annoyed at that, so they don't reply till Tuesday. I had a phenomenal legal team. Brian McMonigal led it, who's a great, probably the best trial lawyer in Philadelphia, certainly maybe one of the best in the country. Jesse Barrett, Amy Coney Barrett's husband, recommended him. He was going to take the case, actually, but he said, I'm too high profile, but you want Brian McMonigal. So I said, Brian, I'm not going to take that. He said, are you sure? I said, no, I'm not taking that. I said, well, let me go home and talk to my wife. He's like, yeah, go talk to your wife. So I go home, I talk to Ryan Marie, and I said, Ryan Marie, they came in with a plea deal. She says, oh, yeah? What's that? Kind of indignant. I'm like, no time, no fine, no probation. And this was this is January 6th, right? So we're 2 weeks out from the trial. And she said, well, you're not going to take that. I said, I'm not? She said, no, because you're not a coward, and that's a cowardly deal. And plus, you're innocent. And secondly, if you want to take it, it's your decision to make. Don't bother coming home. That's what she said. And you can ask her. And then she said, Mark, we need to do it for the good of the movement. We need to do it for the good of the pro-life movement. This is bigger than us. We can't just run from this and hide and protect ourselves and insulate ourselves. A good father might consider that, right? Like, hey, that's important. I want to be around for my kids. Maybe this is, I need to step back. I said, no. No, this is right. We need to do this because our First Amendment rights are at stake. During the trial, Judge Pappard said, go back to D.C. and fix this. This law is infringing upon the everyday rights of American citizens. This is bad law. He said, he was very candid about that. So we go to the trial, and it's 3 days from the prosecution. And, of course, Mark Jr. and I are going to be the only defense witnesses. In a federal case, defendants never get on the stand. You know why? Because they're guilty. So Mark and I are going to do it. And they're going to put Mark up. I said, you're putting me on the stand, right? Because you can't just put this boy up there and not me. That boy cannot live with this the rest of his life. He's 14 years old, just turning. And his words are going to make or break whether his father goes away to prison. You better put me on that stand. He said, don't worry, Mark. We'll put you on the stand. I said, good. Because you can't do that to that boy. But I tell you, my attorney said he won you the case. He was a star. I was so proud of him. Can you imagine the pressure of a 14-year-old boy going in front of a federal prosecutor and asking questions? And they were really snaky with it, right? Like a serpent. You love your dad, don't you? Yeah, I love my dad. He's like a hero to you, isn't he? Yeah. You'd do anything for your dad, wouldn't you, Mark? Yeah. Let's talk about something else. And then redirect. As if to say, you're going to lie for your father, right? And he would correct them. He would correct them. And he came off that stand. And he connected with the jury. And then, of course, I was on the stand. And I prayed for a spirit of confusion, that the prosecution would be confused. And they were. They were talking about nonsense. Mr. Houck, you believe that they're murderers, don't you? You actually say that. They're murderers, baby killers, don't you? No, I don't say that. Well, what do you say, Mr. Houck? Well, I say that they're collaborators in the evil of abortion, so they are baby killers. I said, no, they're sinners like me. They didn't know what to do with that. Mr. Houck, on your website says that you believe you're in a war, don't you? This is a war against Planned Parenthood. It's a spiritual battle. So it is a war. That was a spiritual one. Like they just didn't know where to go with it. So this is just kind of how it all played out. Now it goes to the jury on the same day that I met my wife 16 years prior, January 27th. This was not lost on me. The day it goes to jury is the day I met my wife at a pro-life prayer vigil, mind you. That's where I met her. And so, of course, they're hung. After about an hour and a half of deliberation, they're hung. So we're like, oh, no, this isn't good. All right, in the tomb. Adjourned on Monday. I'm in the tomb. I'm at Station 14 for 3 days. We emerge on Monday, and there's like notes being passed to the judge like it's 8th grade again. Does she like me? Does he like me? All these notes. And I'm like, what is going on? And the judge is like, sidebar, jury out. I got to meet with all the jury members one by one. So he meets with all the jury members. It's like the hand of God just like reached down and was going to do something. Well, apparently there was one jury member who would not deliberate. He would not deliberate. He said, the man's guilty, and I'm not going to enter into the process. Well, you can't do that when you're a jury member. You have to do that. You have to talk about the evidence, and you have to talk about. He wouldn't do it. So they kicked him out, and the prosecution had to agree to it because he's not. So they kicked this guy out, and they called the guy in from Lancaster, who's like 3 hours or 2.5 hours away from the city. So even if you're on jury duty and you're the alternate, pay attention. How many of us try to get out of jury duty? Raise your hand if sincerely. Yeah, I did it too. Don't get out of jury duty. I need you on that jury. We need you on these juries. And you know what? Catholics and Christians, they get all worked up over those. Say, can you be fair on the issue of abortion? You know what your answer is? Yes, I can be fair, right? Your conscience is informed. You can be fair. But some people get like, oh, I don't know. And then we get all these good jurors kicked off, right? Because you get strikes. But you say, I can be fair. Anyhow, so we come to the day of the acquittal. So it's 2:00. The guy gets there. We're at lunch, and less than an hour deliberating, they have a verdict. We're like, oh no, we have no idea what's going on. Like, this is not good. So we go back to the courtroom, and there, of course, is the 12 members of the jury, and the judge says, how do you find? And he said, we, the jury, find Mr. Mark Houck not guilty on the first count. Now, there's 2 counts being put against me with the FACE Act. First account is motive. Second account is the assault charge. Now, they have to approve motive, right? That I pushed the man because he's a reproductive health care worker. And they can apply that to you if 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, you saw that guy at a grocery store, you remember that he was at Planned Parenthood, and you said, hey, you, I remember you, and you push him in the parking lot, they can apply the FACE Act against you. That's how liberal this law is being applied, right? So they have to prove motive that I pushed him, not to protect my son, but I pushed him because he's a, quote, reproductive health care worker. Just to back up to 1994 to educate you, we found this out in the trial, that Ted Kennedy, the liberal lion, put this forward, this bill, this law, signed into law by Bill Clinton, and Senator David Durenberger from Minnesota asked him on the House floor, does this apply to pro-lifers, First Amendment people outside, and volunteers for these abortion clinics? Does this law apply to them? And Ted Kennedy says, it absolutely does not apply to them. But, of course, it's all up to interpretation, right? That's all up to the judge's interpretation of that. But that's the facts. So they come, and of course, the second one, I say to my sister, I said, prepare your heart, I'm going to be found guilty on the assault charge. Because I pushed the man, right? That's still assault. Even though I was defending my son, it's still assault. If I go up and push, Ed right now, that's assault, right? And, but it is what it is. So I said, I'm going to be found guilty on that. But again, you got to prove motive, but still, the jury's going to say, well, you pushed him. So I said, Mayor, prepare your heart for that. I'm going to be found guilty. She said, what are you talking about? I said, just prepare your heart. So I open up the scriptures right then and there, and I see Psalm 57. It says, under the shadow of God's wings, you will be protected. This is what I read right before the final verdict. And it says that the history of the church, that they believe that the shadow of the wings that the psalmist talks about there, David, is the shadow of the cross. That we're all protected under that. And this whole journey was about the cross. And so, of course, when they came back and they said, we, the jury, find Mark Houck not guilty of count 2, The second assault happened in the whole trial because I pushed Peter Breen immediately. I was so excited because that's what football players do. We get excited, we push people. But it was a great moment in the courtroom. And we're celebrating. Of course, I'm looking, and I look back at the judge, and the judge is kind of standing there looking at me. And I said, "Thank you, Judge." And he says, "No, thank you, Mr. Houck." I think he knew. I think he knew this would be an important case. And so he said, "Mr. Houck, you are free to go." You don't realize the freedom that we've been blessed with in this country, that we need to defend. And that's why I have made a decision. So people were asking me before the trial to run for office. I said, "I don't want to run for office. Get behind me, Satan. I don't want to run for office." And then more and more people were asking me. And I'm like, I got a mission. I got a full-time ministry guy, right? I got a mission. Why, you would be good. We could use people like you. No, I had a vision after I got arrested I was going to be at the State of the Union. I thought it would be like Donald Trump's next State of the Union, right? I was at this year's State of the Union with Ryan Marie. She's over there next to Bono and Joe Biden. I'm on all the way across the hall. I'm thinking, she's having a grand old time sitting in the Rosa Parks chair, and I'm over here with people I don't even know, and then she's yucking it up, having a good old time as an introvert. I'm thinking, what are we doing here? This is bizarre. But what's just interesting, a lot of people like Chip Roy, Burgess Owens, Scott Perry, who invited me to the State of the Union, they apologized to me. That meant a lot to me. Jim Jordan. These guys apologized to me for what happened. It meant a lot. I met Kevin McCarthy, and he apologized to me. And so, we began this relationship with some of these guys, and I'll finish up. This is my cue. Relationship with some of these guys. I know how it works. I do it all the time myself. But I started to see that there are men of integrity and women of integrity on the Hill. And so by July, we had a conversation with Scott Perry. The papers want to spin it like Scott Perry's trying to get us to run against the incumbent, who's a Republican. I voted for him 3 times. It wasn't the case at all. I'm just trying to get data. And I said, "Look, what do you think?" He said, "The Republic's falling apart, Mark." He said, "You need to make a decision by the end of July." So Ryan Ray and I have been on the road essentially since June 27th with the kids. We came home for a little spell, then we got back on the road again. We'll take the whole month to pray. So the whole month of July we prayed, and we asked God to give us a sign. And we got those signs that we should run, that we should run for office, that we should run for the congressional seat in the 1st District against the incumbent, Brian Fitzpatrick, who is the only congressman in the House right now that is a former FBI agent. Now go figure the coincidence of that. The narrative that follows that, the guy that's running against him was raided by the FBI. He didn't come out and support our family. He didn't say anything. I'm his constituent. Now, we're not doing it for malicious reasons or retaliation. No. It's time. It's his 4th term. He votes like a Democrat. And we're going to D.C. because we want to protect you and them and all the citizens of America so that this never happens again. And thanks to Phyllis Schlafly and people like Ed Martin and organizations like this, we have the ability to have these opportunities to share this message. Thank you so much for letting me share with you. Thank you on behalf of my family. Blessed to be with you. Look forward to having dinner with you.